Hello, it's Nikki. Welcome to part 1 of 2. Today I'm going to be sharing with you one of the techniques that I have mastered this year. Yes, I'm going to say it and I'm going to own it because there are so many times when I try things and it doesn't work and it fails miserably and I end up feeling rubbish about it. But this year, 2023, I've actually mastered this thing. And I'm going to smugly share it, not from an ego point of view, but more so you can use it. And you can use it in whatever capacity you want to, using the technology or the Sharpie and notebook, however you would like to do this thing. So this technique is not complicated, and you can make it as complicated as you want or as simple as you like. And that is tracking. So, okay, why did I want to begin doing this? And I'm going to be sharing in this 2-part series why it's really helped and how I've done it and some steps that you can take away with you. So the first thing that I have noticed is that when I have really improved something, it's because my awareness has gone to it. So when I have been focusing on a goal, so like when we moved into this house, for example, there was a lot of many years of pre-work and looking at things and getting to know stuff and really working hard behind the scenes, working out our options, our possibilities. And I was really focused on it. And actually, I had it as my password, I think from about the age of 36. And the password, I'm not going to say what it was, but it basically had the age and had something to do with the property in the password. And I actively did that every single day. And that's a technique from one of Denise Duffield Thomas's book. I can't remember which one, but there's about 3 or 4 of them. They're all really great, by the way. And so there's a bonus kind of pre-work here is really noticing what has worked for you in the past. And I think this is difficult sometimes because there are so many trends out there. There's always somebody to pop up and say, and I realize the irony because that's what I'm doing right now, but there's always somebody out there saying, you should try this. This could be really great. This is the thing that everybody's doing in 2024. And that in itself can feel really stifling and really overwhelming. The second thing I want to say before we get into the how is that I felt that lots of areas of my life needed, and this is all for me, you might look at my life and go, what are you talking about? Like you're sorted in those areas. Like you've got no work to do. You're on it. You're nailing it. But for me, I didn't feel like that. I didn't feel that I was making enough things real. Everything felt a bit random, a bit scattered. And I think that might be to do with the phase of life that I've really been in with small children and then moving house and looking at all our stuff and how long that takes. And then I got to a point where we had a bit more childcare. Then they both went back to school. And I could really look at ways that I was going to make things real and not random. And so essentially what I did was I begun to take myself more seriously, which is really, really boring to admit. But I know that I am lucky to have reached the age of 42. And I know too many people in close proximity to me that have not had that opportunity. And that makes me take my life very, very seriously. And I know that there were many years and months or days where I just woke up and I'd get stuck in that feeling of like, oh, I feel a bit tired today, or it's raining outside, or I'm a bit cold. And of course, I'm a human being and I feel all those things, and I do have bad days, of course. But generally, I also know the power of how I can switch things and how I can move into gratitude and how I can notice what is right in front of me and the things that I have in my toolkit that instantly make me feel better. And as someone who has got back into running recently, I know that if I can run for 20 minutes in the morning, literally just around the streets near where I live, it has a profound effect on all areas of my life. And I was going to say, oh, that sounds a bit exaggerated, but you know, I'm in this head and body. Like I understand that. It is life-changing for me. And now I feel like I've just figured that out, which is kind of annoying because now I'm committed. Now I'm in the groove with it. But honestly, like once you find those things that really work for you, it's going to be great. Right. Let's get into where we're going. Also, to give you a bit of backstory, sorry to keep going back. I've trained as an actor, and acting is still part of my income pie. And I've always also run my own gigs. So I've always been self-employed, freelance, portfolio career, etc. And after a while, it becomes weirdly normal, but also quite unsettling sometimes when you feel that nothing is secure, nothing is safe, everything's up for negotiation, all of those sorts of things. And actually, for me, putting these principles in place, really playing my own game, essentially, it's a really good confidence builder. And it's a very positive act for my life because it means that I am actively making moves in my own life and I can see the results. So in a way, it doesn't matter what is going on in the outer world. I mean, this sounds straight from a self-development book, doesn't it? But I have to control and look at my inner world because when my inner world makes sense, the outer world will be easier. So number one, I want you in terms of tracking things to understand yourself and ask yourself some big questions. Yes, maybe about your life, but maybe your whole life right now to change it in 24 hours or over the next year is just too big. So you might need to condense it down and say, what is the area or the thing, the topic of my life that feels urgent? That feels like it's looking for my attention. And maybe this is the area that you find the hardest, but equally somewhere deep inside that if you crack this area, if you learn how to master it, it's going to change everything. Likewise, when I first started as an actor, I knew that if I could crack the behind the scenes, how to create income, I knew I'd be able to stay in London. That was ultimately my goal. I was like, I don't want to go home. I feel like it's taken me so many years to get to this point. So figure it out. That was the most urgent thing. Like once I figured out that I knew I could make money, I knew that everything else was going to be okay because I'd be able to survive essentially. So I want you to think about what that area of your life is for you. Number two, you have to commit imperfectly. Now, for you to say, I'm going to commit to this for the rest of my life, it may feel too major. So you have to work with a time scale that works for you. Last week, for example, I said, I'm going to run every day. That was the goal. And I did it. Yes. I'm going to run every day. And I'm going to commit imperfectly. So one day, for example, I didn't feel like I had the right gear on. Like my washing system hadn't quite caught up with my running rhythm. And I went out in the cold and I didn't have enough clothes on. Like I was so cold, I didn't do a great run. But I committed and I committed imperfectly and I did the thing. And so firstly, I want you to think about your time scale, what you're going to be thinking on and focusing on. So it might be a month. I thought I was going to have a hiccup then. No, I'm not. Okay, sorry, false alarm. Maybe it's between now and Christmas. Maybe it's the next 6 months. Maybe it's the next 3 days. Whatever it is for you, I want you to commit to that time. And that is going to be essentially your data time, where you are going to be focusing on this thing. And so I wanted to add the imperfect nature of it as well, because if we look at the opposite of saying, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to do it perfectly, it feels quite the mountain to climb before we begin. So let's not do that. Let's kind of ease into the process. Number 3, control the controllables. Focus on what you can do, not what you can't. So to go back to casting and acting, I never focused on how many jobs that I got, because the controllables are that all the different variables are so outside my control. You know, as much as I might think, well, I feel like I did a good job today. I feel like I could do this part. If somebody says, actually, we're casting somebody and we need somebody 20 years older, it doesn't matter if I did a great job or not. And so what I would track is things that worked in terms of my process. So I focused on how many auditions was I like really doing a great job, where I came out and I wasn't second guessing myself. I wasn't getting stuck in my head. I was coming away going, great, you prepared well, you did what you needed to do, and now you've left, and that's all groovy. Equally with running, I know I'm not going to be in the Olympics, and you might just say, my friends, that's a limiting belief, Nikki, but I can be pretty sure. And also it's not enough of a goal or a desire for me. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to be in the Olympics, but I know when I'm running well. I know when I'm in a flow with any kind of habit. And so I really try and control the controllables. Equally, my partner has been working lots at the moment, and I would love to go for longer runs. There isn't the time in the day. And so what I'm doing right now is focusing on those things. It's 20 minutes. That's all it is. It's 20 minutes. Number 4, you have to be willing to look at the truth and the story of the situation. And the thing is, you will only ever know your story. So you might look at other people that you see are, you know, doing amazing things, and they're elevating and expanding and winning at life, but you never know the story. You never know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know if they've got a leg up. It might be down to genetics. I always say, like, when my son goes to basketball, there's one of the coaches, I would say he's about 6'9". He's really got that basketball genetics. And when me and my son rock up there, I'm thinking, oh, sorry, love, you're not going to have those genetics. But you know, let's work on your ball control. Like, do that. That would be fine. And so with your own setup, you have to understand your story. You have to understand all of those voices, all of those limiting beliefs that are essentially probably outdated and that are going to hold you back. I know when I'm trying to tell myself a story that's not true. I can feel it in my body. I almost call it out, like, what? You again? Oh, right. How can I help? What do you need? Because I'm just not willing to let me go on a different path that is not meant for me. It's just, yeah, I'm not going to do it. Number 5, before we go into part 2, which is coming very soon, create systems and routines for yourself with toddler care. Meaning, I know that my son and my daughter, to a certain extent, although when she was really little, it was all sort of 2020 time, so we weren't going places. But my son, he wanted to know where we were going, what bus we were getting on, what time we would get there, when we were going to have our snack, what we're doing for lunch, are we going to be back for CBBS, like, what was the thing? He wanted to know the program, what's happening, what's going on. And For me, this has really helped when I've applied this to my own routines in terms of taking action. Because when I tell myself the whole story of what's going to happen, you're going to put your shoes on and then you're going to go for a run and you're going to go here and you're going to listen to this podcast. And then when you get back, you might have a cup of tea waiting for you, which is sometimes been the case. I'm going to do it. Because already it's becoming part of my reality. It's not just some whimsical thing where she's like, oh, she's going to talk about going for a run again and saying she should go for a run again, and then she never does. So creating these systems for yourself that bring you lightness, bring reality, bring a sense of you are absolutely doing this. And I know that I've been that person over times. Of course, I'm a human being where I've said to myself, oh yeah, definitely I'm going to do that this week. And I don't do it. I'm not that person anymore. I really endeavor to stick to the things that I say that I'm going to do. And it's a practice because I get busy, I get tired, I get distracted, I get overwhelmed, I get fearful. And so I've needed to create systems around that. So it becomes a non-negotiable. And that has meant sometimes doing something less and building that habit up first before I've been able to do bigger things. And so whatever that goal is for you, you have to chunk it down. You can't be so hard on yourself and think, I've got to automatically change overnight, because it's going to be too much of a leap. Going back to somebody who's never run before and then hoping that they're going to run a marathon next week. We've seen those people on the telly, haven't we? Who are just like, yeah, I've never really run before. And then they get, you know what happens. So we're not doing that. We're taking care of ourselves. We're working through the process and we're doing it. If you've liked this, do come back for part 2. Do subscribe, do like, do share with a friend, and do tell me what you're going to do. What is going to be the activity, the situation that you're going to track? What are you going to get into? What is requiring your focus? And it might be a new thing. One final thing I'm going to say before I move into part 2 is, spoiler alert, and it's an exciting one. Once you change one thing, the other changes will be easier. So whatever this thing is, whether it's like, making your bed every morning, or drinking water, or being disciplined about turning your phone off half an hour before you go to sleep. If you can, you're a better person than I am. I want you to dig into it and go slow. It's not more impressive to me or anybody else for you to do the big thing and then burn out and then kind of, not be able to maintain it. We're building up really slowly so it gets comfy in your body, so it feels really great. I hope you've enjoyed this. I will see you for part 2. Lots of love. Bye.